My friend, there is a secret to greatness that has been whispered through the ages, a truth so profound that those who have grasped it have gone on to accomplish what others thought impossible. It is not hidden in distant lands, nor locked away in sacred libraries. It is not owned by the wealthy or reserved for the powerful. It is within you, closer than your own heartbeat, nearer than your own breath. The truth is this: act as if God is within you. When you live and think as though the very essence of the divine has taken up residence inside you, every step you take, every thought you think, every action you perform becomes charged with infinite possibility. There are those who spend their lives searching for external signs, waiting for a voice from the sky, or a burning bush, or some miraculous occurrence to convince them of God's presence. Yet they miss the greatest miracle of all, that the Creator has already placed His spark within the soul of every man and woman. You were not designed to wander this world powerless, weak, or defeated. You were fashioned in the image of divinity, and the blueprint of greatness has already been printed into your spirit. All that is required of you is the decision to act as though it were so. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when circumstances appear favorable, but now. The moment you assume the attitude of one who carries God within, your life begins to reflect a power beyond measure. To act as if God is within you is to hold yourself to a higher standard of thought and action. It means you do not permit yourself to dwell in doubt, fear, or self-pity, because such emotions cannot coexist with divinity. If you truly believed the Almighty walked with you in every step, how could you cower before challenges? Would you not rise with boldness? Would you not move with conviction? Would you not see obstacles not as barriers but as stepping stones, not as defeats but as lessons guiding you closer to your destiny? The person who walks as if God is within them cannot be enslaved by weakness, because their mind is fixed on the infinite. Consider how differently you would live if every decision you made was influenced by the belief that you carried the power of God within. Would you speak timidly? Would you shrink from opportunity? Would you procrastinate on the dreams that burn in your heart? No, you would act with certainty, because you would know that failure is only temporary, that setbacks are only shadows, and that victory is inevitable for one who acts with divine authority. When the Creator lives through you, your faith transforms into a force that magnetizes people, resources, and circumstances toward your vision. But understand this: acting as if God is within you is not merely a thought to be repeated or a phrase to be spoken. It must become your way of life. It is the conscious decision to carry yourself with dignity, to speak with clarity, to move with purpose, and to face each day with gratitude. It is the determination to discipline your mind, to feed it only with ideas that uplift and expand. For the mind that is poisoned with doubt or saturated with fear cannot express the greatness of God. But the mind that is trained to expect abundance, health, peace, and success will become a channel through which divine power flows. There are many who pray for strength, but act as if they are weak. They ask for wisdom, but think as if they are ignorant. They cry for abundance, but behave as if poverty were their birthright. To these, life becomes a chain of disappointments, not because God has withheld His blessings, but because they have refused to act as if the blessings were already theirs. The law of life responds to belief, and belief is expressed through action. When you move as though you are guided, doors open. When you speak as though you are inspired, hearts listen. When you act as though you are destined, circumstances align. The key is to act before you see, to claim before you possess, to walk as though the promise has already been fulfilled. Think of the men and women who have changed the course of history. They were not stronger than their peers, nor did they possess resources unknown to others. What separated them was the certainty with which they acted, the unwavering belief that something greater guided their steps. They faced ridicule, opposition, and hardship, but they pressed forward because they carried themselves as vessels of divine purpose. They did not wait for permission from the world. They acted as if the world had already been given to them. And because they acted with such faith, the world eventually bowed to their vision. You too are called to live in this way. You may not see the full path before you. You may not know how the resources will come, how the people will arrive, or how the opportunities will present themselves. But if you act as if God is within you, you will discover that the path unfolds one step at a time, and that each step is illuminated just as you need it. The mountain that looked impossible from the valley becomes climbable when you take the first step with faith. The river that seemed uncrossable reveals stepping stones when you begin to walk. The dream that felt distant becomes reality when you behave as if it were already yours. Let me tell you a truth that has lifted countless souls from despair to triumph. Life always responds to the image you hold of yourself. If you think of yourself as weak, life will confirm it with circumstances that prove your weakness. If you think of yourself as limited, life will agree and surround you with walls. But if you think of yourself as a carrier of divine power, if you act as if God Himself dwells within you, life cannot help but deliver to you the people, opportunities, and experiences that match that belief. The world is a mirror, reflecting back the attitude you present to it. Present the attitude of one guided by divinity, and the world will reflect divine guidance. This does not mean you will never face trials. On the contrary, trials are the training grounds of those who carry God within. But when you face them, you will not tremble, for you will know that greater is He who is within you than any circumstance outside you. The storm may rage, but within you is peace. The battle may intensify, but within you is victory. The night may grow dark, but within you is the light that no darkness can overcome. You do not conquer the world by avoiding challenges. You conquer by standing tall in the midst of them, knowing that the God within you cannot fail. To live this way requires courage, for the world often teaches you to depend on external approval, external wealth, external recognition. But when you act as if God is within you, you realize that your worth does not come from applause, but from the divine spark that animates your being. You no longer need to beg for validation, because you carry authority from the highest source. You no longer chase after fleeting pleasures, because you drink from an eternal well. You no longer crumble when others doubt you, because your confidence rests not on their belief, but on your alignment with infinite power. My friend, this is not a philosophy to be debated, but a truth to be lived. It is not enough to nod in agreement. You must test it in the laboratory of your own life. Begin today. When you wake in the morning, remind yourself that God dwells within you. When you face a decision, act as though divine wisdom is guiding you. When you encounter opposition, act as though infinite strength supports you. When you pursue your vision, act as though success is already assured. Do this consistently, and you will find that the very atmosphere around you begins to change. People will sense a confidence in you that they cannot explain. Opportunities will flow to you with a force that seems supernatural. And indeed it is, for you will be living in alignment with the power that created the universe. Understand that this is not arrogance. To act as if God is within you is not to boast of your own strength, but to recognize that the strength flowing through you is not your own. It is to humble yourself by becoming a channel, allowing divine power to work through your thoughts, words, and actions. It is to surrender the illusion of weakness and step into the truth of your divine origin. When you do this, you no longer compete with others, for you know each person carries their own spark of divinity. You no longer fear lack, for you know the source of abundance dwells within. You no longer dread the future, for you know it is shaped by the eternal power that flows through you. Act as if God is within you, and soon you will discover that you do not need to act. It will become your natural state of being. What begins as faith will become sight. What begins as belief will become reality. What begins as action will become transformation. This is the secret of all success, the foundation of all greatness, the root of all true power. It is not outside you, but within you, and when you live as if it were so, the world itself will rise to confirm your faith. So go forward, not timidly but boldly. Speak not as one hoping to be heard, but as one whose words carry the weight of eternity. Work not as one striving in vain, but as one whose efforts are guided by infinite intelligence. Live not as one drifting through chance, but as one whose steps are ordered by divine purpose. Carry yourself as if God is within you, because He is. And when you finally come to the end of your journey, you will look back and see that what seemed like your actions were in fact the workings of a greater power through you. That is the life worth living, and it begins the moment you decide to act as if God is within you. When you take hold of this principle and apply it in the smallest moments of your daily life, you begin to see how powerful it truly is. When you rise in the morning, instead of dragging yourself into the day with complaints or worries, you rise with the thought that the infinite presence is breathing through you. Suddenly, the tasks of the day no longer feel like burdens, but opportunities for expression. You do not simply go to work, you bring light into your workplace. You do not simply interact with family or strangers, you carry into those interactions the calm assurance that divine love flows through your words and actions. Every moment becomes sacred because you have chosen to see yourself as a living temple of God. Think about the way most people approach their challenges. They say, if only I had more resources, then I would succeed. If only someone believed in me, then I would try. If only the world was fairer, then I could thrive. These are the cries of one who does not yet realize the treasure within. But the man or woman who acts as if God is within does not wait for perfect conditions. They create the conditions. They do not beg for a chance. They make their own way. They do not surrender to fear. They walk forward with courage because they believe that no matter what they face, the God within is greater. This attitude does not merely change how you feel, it changes how the world responds to you. People are drawn to those who radiate certainty. Opportunities seek out those who move with conviction. The person who acts with divine assurance becomes like a magnet, pulling into their orbit the resources they need, often at the exact moment they need them. It seems to others like coincidence, but it is not. It is the law of faith in action, the unfolding of divine order in response to belief. Even in your relationships, this truth brings transformation. When you act as if God is within you, you do not look to others with desperation or neediness. You do not beg for their approval or cling to them out of fear of loneliness. Instead, you bring fullness into the relationship because you already know you are complete within. This attracts respect, admiration, and genuine love, for people are inspired by one who is rooted in divine confidence. You become not a taker but a giver, not a burden but a source of strength, and when setbacks come, and they will, you will not collapse as one without hope. You will remember that every trial is an opportunity for the God within you to display greater power. A closed door will not fill you with despair, for you will know it is simply redirecting you toward a greater opening. A loss will not destroy you, for you will see it as pruning, preparing you for greater fruit. What others call defeat, you will see as discipline. What others call the end, you will recognize as the beginning of something new. Carry this attitude into your goals and dreams. Do not hesitate to imagine the greatest version of your life. The God within you is not limited by scarcity, nor intimidated by obstacles. If your dream is aligned with goodness and truth, then it is already supported by divine power. Act as though it is not only possible, but inevitable. Speak of it with conviction. Work toward it with energy. Surround yourself with thoughts, people, and environments that reinforce your faith. Little by little, the unseen will become seen, the hoped, for will become real, and the life you once only envisioned will stand before you in reality. There will be times when doubt whispers in your ear. There will be moments when fear tries to seize your heart. But in those times, remind yourself that the presence of God is not a visitor who comes and goes. It is the very essence of your being. You cannot be separated from it. You can only forget it, and so, when fear arises, call yourself back to the truth. I act as if God is within me because He is. Let this reminder steady you, strengthen you, and propel you forward when everything around you urges you to stop. As you live this way, something remarkable happens. You stop pretending and you start becoming. What once felt like acting as if soon becomes the deepest reality you know. The mask of limitation falls away, and the true self emerges, powerful, creative, courageous, and aligned with the divine. You will look back one day and realize that the moment you chose to act as if God was within you was the moment your real life began. The difference between a life of mediocrity and a life of greatness is not found in the external advantages one possesses, but in the inner stance one takes toward life. The person who acts as if God is within them does not wait for evidence. They become the evidence. They do not waste time wishing for a sign, because their very being radiates the sign. Their walk, their speech, their decisions all testify to a higher presence. This is why the world eventually bows to such a person, even if at first it doubts them. The world cannot long resist the force of someone who carries themselves as though divine power flows through every fiber of their being. There will always be critics, people who laugh at your confidence, who question your vision, who try to remind you of your failures. But when you act as if God is within you, their words lose their power, for you know that they do not see what you see, they do not feel what you feel, they do not know what you know. You are not living according to their limited perspective. You are living according to a limitless reality that exists within you. And as you continue, your results will silence their doubts. What once seemed impossible will stand before them undeniable, and they will wonder how you did it. The answer will always be the same. You dared to act as though God Himself walked through you. Think of the daily habits you can transform by embracing this truth. When you eat, you nourish not just a body, but a temple of God. When you work, you are not just performing tasks, but expressing the creativity of the divine. When you speak, you do not utter empty words, but release vibrations that can uplift, inspire, or heal. When you rest, you do not simply escape exhaustion, but you allow the spirit within to renew and restore you for greater works. Every action takes on new significance when you recognize the presence of God within you. Even your failures shift in meaning. To those who forget their divine nature, a failure is proof of weakness. But to those who act as if God is within them, failure is simply feedback, a message pointing the way to greater refinement. They do not despair because they know the God within does not make mistakes, only lessons. They do not linger in regret because they understand that every ending is the seed of a new beginning. They rise from defeat with renewed strength because they know the hand that guides them cannot be stopped. In time, you will notice that your very identity changes. You will no longer say, "I hope I can succeed." You will say, "I know success flows through me." You will not say, "I am afraid to try." You will say, "The God within me is greater than fear." You will not say, "Perhaps one day things will improve." You will say, "Today is already filled with the power of divine possibility." These shifts in language are not small. They are the very tools by which you carve your destiny, for words spring from belief, and belief determines action, and action shapes reality. The life you desire is waiting for you, but it requires you to step into the fullness of who you are. You cannot live timidly and expect to unlock the greatness placed within you. You cannot shrink back and hope for divine favor. You must rise each day and act with the certainty that God is within you, guiding, empowering, and shaping your path. The sooner you embrace this truth, the sooner you will see the evidence of it in every corner of your life. And when others witness your transformation, you will not need to explain it in elaborate terms. They will see it in your eyes, hear it in your voice, and feel it in your presence, that undeniable sense of one who lives not by human weakness, but by divine power flowing from within. When you begin to consistently act as if God is within you, you will notice an awakening of confidence that cannot be shaken by external circumstances. This confidence is not arrogance, because arrogance is rooted in insecurity and the desire to prove something to others. True confidence comes from alignment with the divine source within. You do not need to shout or boast to make others believe in you. The quiet certainty in your heart speaks louder than words. It shows in the way you walk, in the calmness of your decisions, in the way you carry yourself through storms. People will feel a shift in your presence, even if they cannot put it into words, because the divine spark radiates silently but powerfully from within you. You will also begin to notice that your creativity expands. Ideas that once felt out of reach will suddenly flow into your mind with clarity. The God within you is a creator, and when you act as if that same creative force dwells in you, you open yourself to innovation, inspiration, and vision. You will see solutions where others see problems, opportunities where others see dead ends. Your mind will no longer be limited by what has been done before, for you will understand that you are not confined to the past. You are guided by infinite intelligence that is always pointing forward. This creativity will not only bless your own life, but will also uplift those around you, for true divine expression always multiplies its impact. Another transformation you will see is resilience. Life, by its very nature, includes challenges, losses, and disappointments. But when you act as if God is within you, setbacks no longer break you. You recognize them as part of the process, stepping stones on the way to something greater. The person who knows they carry divine power cannot be permanently defeated. They may stumble, but they rise stronger. They may be delayed, but they are never denied. They may cry in the night, but joy returns with the dawn, because the presence within them guarantees renewal. This resilience becomes a shield, allowing you to press forward with courage, while others give up in despair. As you continue to live in this way, your capacity to love also deepens. You begin to see people differently. Instead of judging them only by their actions or appearances, you recognize that they too carry the spark of divinity. This shifts how you respond to them. You become more patient, more forgiving, more understanding, because you realize that they, like you, are on a journey of awakening. Your relationships improve, not because others suddenly change, but because your perspective does. Love becomes less about needing and more about giving, less about fear and more about freedom. This divine love transforms not only you but those who encounter you, for love flowing from the God within is contagious and healing. Eventually, you come to a place where fear of the future dissolves. You no longer lie waiting for disaster or worrying about what might go wrong. Instead, you live with expectancy, knowing that the same power that sustains the stars and governs the universe is guiding your path. Every day becomes a canvas on which the God within paints new possibilities. You move with faith, you work with joy, you rest with peace, and you shine with purpose. And through this way of living, you fulfill the reason you were placed here, to manifest the greatness of God through the uniqueness of your life. As this truth settles deeper into your consciousness, you begin to realize that every choice you make carries greater weight than you once imagined. Each decision is no longer just a matter of convenience or preference. It is an opportunity to express the God within you. When faced with difficulties, you do not choose from fear, but from faith. When offered shortcuts that compromise your integrity, you do not yield, because you recognize that divine presence cannot be deceived. When opportunities arise, you do not hesitate out of self-doubt, because you know that within you flows the same strength that spoke galaxies into being. This shift in decision-making transforms the entire trajectory of your life. Your words also take on new meaning. You begin to speak with authority, not because you are trying to impress others, but because you understand that words carry creative power. To act as if God is within you means to guard your speech carefully, for every statement is a seed. You no longer speak carelessly about lack, limitation, or defeat, because you know that the words you release shape the reality you experience. Instead, you speak words of possibility, of faith, of victory, and over time you see those words return to you in the form of opportunities, blessings, and breakthroughs that others call miracles, but you recognize as the natural result of living aligned with divine truth. The same transformation touches your thoughts. Once your mind may have been filled with doubt and fear, replaying past failures or anticipating future troubles, but when you act as if God is within you, you train your mind to dwell on higher things. You discipline your imagination to picture what you desire, not what you dread. You choose to meditate on abundance rather than lack, peace rather than chaos, strength rather than weakness. This shift in thought patterns is not instant, but with consistent practice it becomes your natural state. And because thoughts are the foundation of all action, your entire life begins to reflect this new inner reality. You will also find yourself growing in gratitude. Instead of constantly wishing for what you do not have, you begin to appreciate the blessings already present in your life. Gratitude becomes a daily practice, and as you give thanks for what is, you create space for more to come. Acting as if God is within you naturally awakens this sense of gratitude, for how can one recognize such a gift and not be filled with thankfulness? Gratitude then multiplies into joy, and joy strengthens your faith, creating a cycle of ever-increasing abundance and peace. In this way, your very life becomes a testimony. You no longer need to convince people with arguments or persuade them with elaborate explanations. The evidence is visible in how you live, how you carry yourself, how you respond to both triumph and trial. Others will look at you and see not perfection, but a steady light, a strength that endures, a hope that refuses to die. And when they ask you how such a life is possible, your answer will be simple. I live as though God is within me, and in doing so I have discovered that He truly is. My friend, the essence of all that has been spoken rests on this unshakable truth. You are not ordinary, you are not powerless, and you are not wandering without purpose. The very spark of God resides within you, and your task is to live as though this is not just a comforting idea, but an unchanging reality. When you think, speak, and act with the awareness that divine power flows through you, your life cannot remain the same. Fear will lose its grip, doubt will fade into confidence, obstacles will turn into stepping stones, and every setback will reveal itself as preparation for something greater. The choice is always yours: to live as though you are a victim of chance, or to rise as a vessel of divine intention. Acting as if God is within you is not pretense. It is the highest form of truth, for He is already there, waiting for your recognition. Step boldly into this awareness, carry yourself with dignity, speak with faith, move with courage, and love with abundance. In doing so, you will not only transform your own life, but you will also become a light to those around you, a living reminder of what is possible when a person dares to live in harmony with the infinite power within. This is your calling, your privilege, and your destiny. Embrace it fully, and let the world see through you the unmistakable presence of God.